This isn't even all of it. Let me take you back to January 2023. You're a bored college student with a bit too much of an affinity for procrastination. I know, so rare. Naturally, you're scrolling through YouTube to fill the void, and then you see it. The best thing you've ever seen. Firstly, this exists. And secondly, you can make it? You watch the whole thing confused and perplexed of how this witchcraft is done. You wonder if you'll ever be able to understand what this magic is. But it doesn't matter. You have Hobby Lobby to go to. You were hooked. Every second of that introduction was true, and you know why you're here. You're here to see everything I've ever crocheted. I just wanted to give you a bit of background on how I started myself. So the first thing I ever crocheted was this. I know, humble beginnings. But you gotta start somewhere, right? And also this isn't even the first thing I ever crocheted because I kept ripping it out to do the different stitches and try to learn them. But after that, if you can even believe it, is a granny square. I wanted to know how to make granny squares because I knew the power that these things could unlock. Clothing, bags, blankets, you name it. These little boys are the road to success. So naturally I made two, and this was just to learn how to do color work and everything like that. Now that you know the bad beginnings, I would like to separate this video into the different categories of things I've made instead of just chronologically, because it might be a little bit, the formatting might be a little bit better. The first category is blankets. This little guy right here is one of the first projects I ever did. You might ask yourself, why did you do an entire blanket as your first project? That's kind of insane. Well, I'm glad you asked. It was actually me being an idiot. Because I thought to myself, it's just a square, how hard can it be? The answer is very hard. I had done a few hats, which I'll show you later, but this is my first full-fledged project that I ever did. I thought that I could probably do edges straight enough. Thank goodness that I decided to do a bigger yarn and a bigger hook for this, because if not, that probably would have been it. That would be the end of my crochet journey right there. I'll link the tutorial of how I learned how to make this. It's a tutorial by Hooked by Robin. She is the best resource if you're just starting out. Basically, I went to Walmart and I got the cheapest yarn I could, and I just started. I'm not sure how long this took me. I can't quite remember, but quite a while. And I was working on it hours each day. It was kind of nuts. When I finished this bad boy, I was just so amazed and proud of the work I did. By this point, it was already a full-fledged addiction and I couldn't stop, so I almost immediately started making my second blanket. Now, I don't have it with me because I gave it away, but it was a granny, I'll find a picture of it and put it somewhere on the screen right now, but it was a granny square blanket, and I just casually thought that it would be really easy to make with the size that I wanted to make it, and it turned out to be 180 squares that I made. It reminded me of when people do a harrowing task and learn more about themselves, but in this instance it was just me wanting to give up and then being like, no, it's a gift, you have to finish it, and then that was it. I liked how it turned out. I was really sad because I wish that I had kept it for myself, but I'll make another one soon. The next blanket on the list is also a present. I make a lot of huge projects to give away. I don't really know why, but it's right here. It's a Harlequin stitch, and I will try to link the tutorial of where I learned how to make it, because at the beginning I couldn't read patterns. I just had to do YouTube tutorials, which are a great source if you are new. But this blanket didn't take too long, but I think it was about weight 4 yarn, and it took a lot longer in my opinion because it just felt like it was taking a lot longer because of the hook size and because each row had physically more stitches in it. I really liked how it turned out, and the person I made it for loved it too, so that's really good. The fourth blanket I've made is also a gift. This one was an alpine stitch blanket. I don't really have that many good pictures of it because if you have tips for photographing crochet blankets that you finish, please let me know because I'm so bad at it. They always look really bad. They don't actually showcase the whole deal like I want to, but just taking like one huge photo just doesn't cut it. Anyway, this is an alpine stitch. The way that I did it is kind of chaotic. The way I did the color changes were all over the place. It wasn't uniform. I'm not that good at measurements. Like, I measure the chain, but then the actual garment is not the length of the chain, so I need to learn how to do that better because this one turned out way bigger than I thought, so that means it took a way longer. But that was my fourth blanket and my last blanket right now. So those are all the blankets I've made. For 1 year, I'd say that's a pretty good amount. The next section should be hats, because there's not that many of them. As I mentioned earlier, the first thing I ever actually made was a hat. It reminds me of like Goofy's hat because it's just so tall and it has this weird like bump on the top. So basically this is all made with single crochet and it took forever. As you can see, the edges, they're not straight at all. And I just thought that you could curl it back like a beanie and it would be fine. It's not. It looks really dumb. So needless to say, I've never worn this after the first week of making it. But if you haven't made anything before, just start because I was so proud of this. I wore it everywhere. I didn't care that it was too tall or the edges were just whack. I just was so happy to have made something. So if you haven't started crocheting or are intimidated by a first project, just do it. It'll probably look bad, but you'll be glad you did, and then you can start improving. So go for it. Next hat is this little guy. So I made this one pretty shortly after the first one, the first disaster. I actually really like the way this turned out. I did it in a different technique and it's made with half double crochet instead of single crochet. It was a way faster workup and I like how it works significantly more. However, it is still massively too big. It's too long, it's too wide. Measuring garments correctly is one of the hardest things in crochet in my opinion. I'm still struggling with it, 9 months in? But that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles, so. To be honest, I took a pretty large break from hats after that. It got warmer, it was springtime. And so the next hat I made was this cat hat. It's showcased on my Instagram reels. I have a lot of scrap yarn, and I mean a lot, because someone gifted me their entire scrap yarn stash. So I just have a lot of random yarn that I don't know where it came from. I can't buy any more if I wanted to. So if you want a series on how I deal with my scrap yarn, or maybe give me some suggestions, that would greatly be appreciated. But yeah, this cat hat, it turned out pretty cute. I'm not a huge fan of the colors, but that's alright. This is technically not a hat, but it's like headwear, and it is this beaded bandana, and whoo boy, this is really cute. I love how it turned out. I love the green beads. I wish it was a little bigger, but my patience was wearing thin, so I just cut it off. I'm not really a bandana person, or like, I'm not really good at styling my hair or thinking of hair accessories, but this little thing was absolutely perfect for me. So if you haven't given crocheting with beads or want a tutorial on it, let me know because man, it's fun and I personally love the outcome. Just gives a certain quality to it, much like my button obsession. Definitely give it a shot. The next and last hat that I've made is this little black cat beanie. I really like black cats, so I just thought it was fitting to make this. It took a few hours. They're pretty easy to make. It's literally just a square that you sew together and that's it. Anyway, that concludes our hat section. The next section is bags, because I haven't really made that many of them. The first bag I ever made was this granny square bag. I believe it took me about 3 days to make it, and it hurt. This bag hurt to make because I was using 100% recycled yarn and it just hurt my finger to scrape across it when you crochet. This bag literally caused me to bleed. I just made it to carry around all my crochet projects and I kind of use a different bag now, but it's a very spacious bag. I'll link the tutorial that I used to make it in the description. The next bag I made was this granny square fanny pack. The best feature about this bag is that it has a zipper and it's lined on the inside, all hand sewn, which I'm super bad at, but no one can see it but me. And there are these little metal bits. Overall, this is a very good bag. I know they were popular. I don't know if they're still as popular as they were, but I still really liked how this turned out. The last bag I've made, I've shown you guys before, but it's this granny square bag that I made out of scrap yarn. The offer still stands for that tutorial. Yeah, it's pretty easy. I didn't have a pattern for it. I just kind of like eyeballed it. Yeah, if you want a tutorial, let me know. But that's all my bags I've made. Not that many of them. So the next section, I guess, should be cardigans. This is my biggest failure. It's the first cardigan I ever made, and I'll show you exactly why it's a failure. Do you see what I mean? So I didn't know how to measure properly, and this thing turned out way too big. So I'm going to convert it into a blanket, and I'm gonna make that a video, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, this is my biggest crochet fail to date. So feel free to make fun of me in the comments for me being an idiot. The second cardigan I've also already shown. It's this one that I was wearing in my last video. And so this was my chance to redeem myself after the last one. And I have to say, I mean, I think I did. It's pretty good. Offer to make a video on this still stands too. And it also unlocked my love for patchwork cardigans. Like, look at this thing, it's the best. Because the next thing I made was also a patchwork cardigan that I gave away. This was before I had an Instagram for crocheting and all that, so my pictures of it are pretty bad, but I'll put it somewhere here. Friend I made it for loved it, so that's good. As you probably can see, I've made a third one as well. I've named this one the Aurora cardigan. It is also a gift, I just haven't given it away to the person yet, and I think that this turned out super well too, and it's a new technique I've been using that I'm going to teach you guys how to do if I make a tutorial on these things. Just look at it. I really like how this turned out, and I'm going to make a 4th and 5th patchwork cardigan so my entire friend group can just be ballin' in style, quite frankly. The next top on this list is of my own design. It's the Latte Princess top. This is the second one I made for pattern writing purposes. Check out that video, or actually don't, it's pretty bad. I'll include pictures as well, but there's a brown one too that I made that is in the thumbnail of that video, but this is kind of my pride and joy. I really love it. Yeah, I'm writing a pattern for it. This is my first step into the designing world, and it's pretty fun. There's a lot of trial and error to go through with it, but I'll definitely be making more stuff in the future. The last top that I made is, I actually don't know where it is. I've looked everywhere for it, so I'll have to find it, but here's a picture, and I'll link the tutorial I used for it, but this thing took forever. It was my first experience using a size 3 hook, and the result is super worth it, but be prepared to be in it for the long haul because it takes so long to do. I've worn this thing a lot, and I really like how it turned out. It's one of my most favorite pieces I've made too, so. And so for this next section, it's so tiny, but it's bottoms because I've only ever made one, and I just finished it today, but it's this skirt I'm wearing. Like, how cool is that? This thing also took forever and a half, but the result is so worth it. It's my favorite thing that I've ever made, and I will link the socials and the pattern. I did pay for this pattern. Turned out so well. I'm hoping to make more skirts slash maybe pants in the future, but that's all for that. The last section I have for you guys is the Amigurumi section. I've already shown you a few in my other video, but I'll just go ahead and show you again. Yeah, they're these black cats. I actually have 4 of them. When I was doing the intro piece, they kind of flew everywhere, so here's 3 of them. I linked the pattern in my previous video, so you can find it there, but these are so cute. I've already endorsed them enough, but I love these so much, so definitely make these if you haven't already. The next are these little pumpkins. I also made them. I had a dream that I was gonna sell these at my local farmer's market, but I never did. Yeah, these are super quick to work up, super cute. It's fall now. They're great decor. My biggest amigurumi has to be this dragon. It took me like 3 days to make. You wouldn't think that something like this would take that long, but oh boy it did. And I'm really glad I made it because it's just so cute, and I've gotten compliments on it. It's really squishy. Like, I'm definitely gonna make bigger amigurumi in the future, but yeah, this is awesome. I've also made these little mushrooms as well. They're pretty cute. I've also linked the pattern in my most previous video. They are quick to work up. They actually make perfect cat toys because my cat can't leave this one alone, so I guess fair warning for that. For my current project right now, since I finished this skirt, are these little flowers, and I'm gonna make a garland with it, but I also can foresee me making like granny squares out of it, and I super want to make another blanket, but I need to stop with the blankets. They take so long. Halfway through, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have started this project, but then by the end of it, I'm in love with it, so, you know, that's how those types of things go. But those specific ones are for a garland right now. But yeah, that is everything I've ever crocheted. A lot of it I've given away, some of it I've kept, Some of it I hate that I need to redo, but a lot of the stuff I've made I really love. I don't know where I'd be if I didn't start crocheting this year, because this year my life has been kind of crazy, and having a nice relaxing activity to just sit down and enjoy has been a really nice way for me to decompress. But yeah, if you're watching this and you've never crocheted before, please give it a shot. I know it's not for everybody, but I found it so healing and so fun to do. I used to actually not like crochet at all. I thought it looked weird and I just didn't like it very much, but now that I've started crocheting, I just, like, it's an addiction really. I should probably not crochet as much as I do. It's definitely worth starting if you're thinking about it. Yeah, that concludes my video. If you liked it, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel. I would really appreciate it. And keep an eye out for whatever I do in the future. I hope you have a wonderful day.